This is our 188th and our first partner event in person in 2 years. The last one was in February of 2020, which seems like a long time ago. We thank you all for coming out. I want to jump really quick. My name is Valerie Bates. I'm the chair of the Texas Tropical Trail Region. We are a program under the Texas Heritage Trails Program, and we are affiliated with the Texas Historical Commission State Agency. Traditionally, we held meetings like this all over the region, and for those of you who haven't joined us before, this is what we look like during the normal days.
Good morning, and it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. I am Fortescue. I have the privilege to be the President and Executive Director here at IMAS, the International Museum of Art and Science. And I have the distinct honor of welcoming all of you and introducing the City of McAllen Mayor Villalobos this morning. Mayor.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Let's see, where are we from? Different areas?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to all over the place. That's what I like. Anyway, welcome first of all to McAllen, to IMAS. This is one of our gyms here in McAllen. And I always laugh because I bring this. I have great staff. They write great stuff for me. I never follow it. So, I go anyway, we're honored to have you all here. And I know that later on today, you all will be transported to Quinta Mazatlan. It's a great place. It's about an acre. When we have a beautiful place, you go into another beautiful place. It's an acre nature preserve and birthing center. And when you get to take a look at it, it's an amazing place. But the reason I tell you to take a good look at it is because we're working on a $37 million project that's going to enhance, it's going to beautify, it's going to grow to about 21 acres and some designs that are going to be amazing. So we really hope we're going to get you back here and come see what we're doing here in McAllen. Now, what's going to be a little different is that when you're there, you're going to realize that, or maybe not realize that you're about a mile from the airport. And probably less than a mile from one of the busiest malls in the country, the Plaza Mall. We have some great stuff going on here in McAllen, including our economy. So a lot of the times, as mayor, I have to say, don't always pay attention to what the news says. We have a beautiful city. If you're from up north, a lot of the times people hear about Valley, about it's different. You know what? Let me tell you a little bit about McAllen. 7th safest city in the country. And I don't mean the state, I mean 7th safest city in the United States. That was amazing. Just 2 months ago, we got notice from the state that we are number 2, lowest in violent crimes in the state of Texas. McAllen is a great place to be. McAllen is a very safe place, so I hope you really enjoy your time here. Now, when you're here, one of the beautiful things we have, other than the forest or greenery or fauna or palm trees or anything, or restaurants. Guys, when we're here, it's amazing the type of restaurants we have here. And I'm not talking just about chain restaurants. We have, I'm very proud to say, we have just what's his name? I forget. Delgado, Valerie Delgado. I don't know if you all have seen Pete Bobby play that show. Well, guess what? He beat him, and we're very proud of him. He has 3 restaurants, or 4, which of course is Salt, Wine House, Salomea, Main Street, and those are just 3, but we have amazing things. So we really hope you all get out there and enjoy McAllen. It's a great place, it's a safe place, and also want to thank y'all. We are very happy to have you all here and be part of this, of what's going on. Now, of course, make sure you all enjoy all the exhibits here. Great. Go enjoy yourself at Mazatlan. Go and enjoy yourself in the city of McAllen. And honestly, I really hope you come back and see us again once we have our Mazatlan ready and done. Guys, have fun and God bless you all. Thank you so much.
We want to make sure that we recognize what we're trying to celebrate here this morning, and that's museums. So here it is in a nutshell. March of 2020, I'm on the phone with Nancy, and we're trying to figure out how to move forward and identify ourselves in a way that didn't include partner events, which was crushing. And so we first identified the most vulnerable partners, and that was the museums. So out of that was born, long story short, this brochure. And that's what we're here to unveil or launch today. Years ago, we did a grant in Harlingen. The Harlingen Arts and Heritage Museum did the first brochure for the Rio Grande Valley. They are in about their fourth printing, so we knew it was going to be a good idea. So this brochure covers our 20 counties. It's organized by county, and we have nearly 80 museums in our region, and there is at least one in every county. So we're here to celebrate you all today. I say this over and over again, without your stories, we would have no stories to tell. So today, you are the story. While we are here, we have a team and 3 booths over at the Winter Texas Expo that are also handing these out. We're already planning our second printing. We have museums that we missed that we'll be adding. So we also have learned an awful lot about it. So what I'd like to do quickly is recognize the museums that are here. Sorry, I know I can see Kathy. Do you think I'm doing that on purpose, Kathy? Yeah. I know. You know me. If you would just raise your hand and say your name when I call your museum. City of Alamo Museum, Alamo. Thank you. Regal and Robert E. Lee House Museum, Rio Grande City.
Ross Bennett.
Gelman Stained Glass Museum, San Juan. And shout it out if you will. Heritage Museum of Valfurious. International Museum of Arts and Science. And can you have your board introduce themselves?
Yeah. Dr. Los Santos, I'm the Assistant Provost at Texas A&M University and a Program Director Board.
Hi, Gabby Jones with LNF Distributors, National Account Manager, and also a proud member of the IMAS board. Welcome.
And I'm Anastasia Bettis. I work here as the Director of Development and Marketing.
And thanks again for being a bookend to today's story and all your hospitality and your space. I don't know what we would have done without you. And do you want to mention the names of your board members who were unable to make it?
Oh, we have quite a full board. I don't want to leave everyone out, but they are listed on our website, the imasonline.org, along with all of our current and upcoming exhibits and programs. So we invite you to, I know some of you will be able to come with me on a walk around today, but those of you who are not able to, we invite you to visit us online. We have a robust series of virtual programs, as well as all of our on-site activities. And I should mention, we are an affiliate of the Smithsonian. We're the only Smithsonian affiliate within a 250-mile radius, which brings programs and resources from the world's largest museum to the Rio Grande Valley.
Well said, very impressive. Thanks again. Jim Hall, Old Jail Museum in Hebbronville. John E. Connor Museum, Kingsville. Laguna Monterey Museum Foundation, Port Isabel. Marion Brown. Dwayne Rasmussen. Those are my.
Make me proud every time. Marine Military Academy, Iwo Jima Monument, Harlingen. Farley Boat Works, Port Aransas Maritime Museum, and Port Aransas Historical Museum in Port Aransas. spring.
Thank you for making the drive down. Port Isabel Lighthouse State Historic Site, Port Isabel and Port Isabel Historical Museum, and that's me, Valerie Bates, City of Port Isabel. Refugio County Museum, Refugio.
Mark Wales, Director.
San Benito Cultural Heritage Museum, San Benito.
Elena Garcia.
Chris Boyer.
Sinton Historical Museum.
Irma Patu, Director.
Thank you. Texas State Museum of Asian Cultures, Corpus Christi.
Richard Batemeister, Director of Operations out there.
Texas Surf Museum, Corpus Christi.
Gavin Snyder, Director.
And the Centennial House in Corpus Christi. Kathy, did you hear that? That's who you all are. We're so glad for you and all the contributions you've made to this program throughout the year. And we thought it was time to contribute to you all in even a greater way. Now, a number of you, raise your hand if you have, did a virtual presentation during the last 2 years. You did, Chris, and yeah, the room is full of people who participated as presenters, and we got to look into your museums. Some museums we've never even visited yet, so we're looking forward to in person in the future. And so, a little bit of housekeeping. Here's what we would like to happen today. If you're here representing a museum or a museum in a visitor center, we have these brochures we would like for you to take back with you. We have packets of 50 or 100. You let us know what you need. It's going to save us on postage, and you are our distribution points. And then, in the vein of storytelling, as the way Tropical Trail does business, we take this, as a matter of fact, Nancy and I have given a presentation on this at a statewide meeting, and we bring this up in front of the THC commissioners at every commission meeting. They're tracking our progress. So we're not just telling the story to the travelers, we're telling the story of the food chain to the Texas Historical Commission, and that helps our entire program and that state agency get funding. So it's very important. So one of the things we'll be able to go back to tell them is on this day, at this event, we distributed 2,500 brochures. I don't even know what they're going to do over there. It'll be interesting to see. It's a competition. Not everything's a competition, but it's a competition. We appreciate your help. You are our storefronts. When you run out, let Mike know, and we'll re-update. Every meeting that we have in person, we'll have them with us, so you can plan to pick them up the next time we meet. And don't be shy in giving these out, because we're already planning and have budgeted for the next print run. So if you see anything on there we've missed, we need to correct. It's a mistake 10,000 times. We apologize for that. Just shoot Mike an email or a text or whatever. We want to make sure that we're representing you accurately.
I'd like to recognize board members, Penny Pelak, and who else have I got? Bart Wells right here,
Nancy Deviney.
over there,
Who am I missing?
Chris right here. We should all have name tags on, but sadly I did not. If you have any questions or input, comments, complaints, please track us down. We want this to be a two-way conversation. We want to, a lot of us work in museums, but we want to know what you all need from us.
Mazatlan. But you're here for the history of Quinta Mazatlan, so let's start off with the word Quinta Mazatlan. Those are old Indian words. They come from Mexico, and Quinta means country home, small country home, and Mazatlan means land of the deer. You have to think back over 100 years ago that this land was brushland, and deer roamed here, and we'll kind of full circle everything as to how it was named Quinta Mazatlan. So we start off with our first gentleman here. His name was Jason Matthews. He was born in Virginia, and his resume reads that he was an inventor, an aerator, an archaeologist, music composer, horticulturalist, kind of did it all and went everywhere. He was an extraordinary person, and made his home here in the city of McAllen. You might wonder, well, how can you make a big mansion like this? Well, it comes from his wife. His wife was Marcia Crary Jameson. She is originally from Pennsylvania. She was an oil heiress. And how the two met, we haven't made the connection yet. But they met, and they came and settled here in McAllen. McAllen at the time was considered a crossroads to the world. And we're very close to the airport and Mexico, and you can get on a plane and fly up north and wherever else you wanted to go, or he wanted to go and travel. Here's a picture of her here. She went to Smith's Liberal College, but she never finished, and the school sent me a note as to why she didn't finish. Well, she was kicked out of the school, because back then she was caught riding in carriage unaccompanied late at night, which would have been her first labor. So the business was found out and they kicked her out of the school, so she never finished school. She was scandalous back then, but together lady. Here she is with her two children. This is one of her passport pictures. Once again, her first marriage. She divorced a gentleman in 1936, and somewhere along the line she met Mr. Matthews, and they came and settled here in South Texas. Kind of a big, strange story, but this is what we found through records. And her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, the stories they conveyed to us. Mr. Matthews, while he was here, kind of bring back some terminology for some of you that are here from the Rio Grande Valley, but more airfield base out in the northwest of Mission, basically was an Air Force training site. Mr. Matthews would go there, and he had dabbled in music, so he kind of put together the band. And the band would travel around to different cities and parades and 4th of July and stuff like that. And then, while he was here, he penned several books. One of the books is well known as the Flame and Melody book. It has a collection of about 55 poems dedicated to his wife. And you kind of have to read between the lines when you read the poetry, because there's hidden messages in the stories that he's saying in the poems. While they were here also, Mr. and Mrs. Matthews were very prominent U.S. citizens, and they were always trying to fight against the Communist Party. So they purchased this magazine. It's called the American Mercury magazine, and all the stories and literature that was in there was promoted was to fight communism. Isn't it funny, 80, 90 years later, here we are still fighting against the Russians at that point. And it was even to a point that Ms. Matthews, somehow, if you're influential enough, she got the U.S. Postal Service to make her a stamp, and she used her own stamps to send the magazines out. And if you look carefully at the stamp itself, it said, "For God and country, fight communism." And basically, the seed, the sickle for the seed, and the UN, they were adamant with the president to not join the United Nations, and for the U.S. to stand alone on their own 2 feet. So they published this magazine, and a lot of their money was going into the magazine here. So here they settled. They bought this land. They bought 5 acres for $2,400, scrub brush land. So they had to hire somebody to build this mansion here. If you look at it carefully. So they put a notice out, to hire Mexican workers. And the story is that he wanted Mexican workers because he had a secret recipe to build the blocks, and he didn't want anybody to find out, so they couldn't convey back and forth. So they started off with a cottage, which is the back area over here with some offices now. But this cottage area was the first thing that was built, and the pool. The pool is 65 feet by 25 feet and 12 feet in depth. There was a well. There is a well, sorry. There's still a well there. that they would use the water from the well to fill the pool. Mr. Matthews had a airplane engine that he would fire up the pump to pump the water into the pool here. And the pool at the bottom end had a plug, and you pull the plug, and the water would flow out to the lower end down here. You kind of noticed you had to walk uphill, so the water would flow down the hill there. As we go through here, now the blocks, as they pull the soil from the pool, they made these blocks here, and that's what the mansion is made out of. If you look carefully at the wall, you can see the huge blocks. And they're basically 18 by 12 by 6. Heat and cold only travel 6 inches either way, so the mansion is not insulated at all. And this is a very comfortable temperature right now. We have 50 guests in here. There's no air conditioning. We have one door open just to kind of keep the breeze going. But as he did that, you notice that there's several layers of paint. The original layers were this aluminum zinc sulfate paint. And the reason he painted it that way, so the radio waves, so the Russians, the Germans would listen to his conversations going on here, and vice versa. So that was very interesting. And then out by the cottage, he had this, I want to call it the first man cave up here. He called it the hooch. And basically there was a rope ladder here that he would climb up, and he would spend time up there writing, penning his stories, his novels, his poetry, kind of up here, and he could pull the ladder up so Mrs. Matthews couldn't follow him up. So it's kind of, I want to call it the first man cave. But it's also, we're at the city of McAllen. This is one of the highest points in the city of McAllen. So you're what, a good 12, 15 feet up, and then you have another building on top. He was able to survey the property and make sure no one was coming onto his property. And here's the mansion being built itself. This is the well right there. And in 1944, they kind of finished the mansion and they moved in. So there's a lot of architecture design here, as you can see. All the tiles came from Puebla, Mexico. All the tiles that you see here, all of them in Puebla, they're all handmade and they're all signed by the artisan that made them. So the archways are decorated. You see the windows decorated. And also, there's several murals throughout the mansion. One of my favorites is this first one here, the story behind the city of Zacatecas. So the four soldiers here are the Spaniards, the bows and arrows are the Mexicans. And Zacatecas is known for its silver mining. So the Spaniards came over, wanted to take over the mine, and the Mexicans battled them. The Virgin Mary appears on the mountain, and the Spaniards got scared and ran away, and the Mexicans were able to keep their silver mine. But there are several pictures or murals throughout the mansion. There's a Roman-style tub. Right now the room is being renovated, so it's off limits, but right now there is a Roman-style tub that the Matthews had installed. The two front doors on the outside, those of you that are in the San Antonio area, the Spanish governor's palace has the same doors as Quinta Mazatlan. The gentleman that made it, Peter Mansbell, created the doors here, and how Mr. Matthews contracted him to make it the same exact doors, except Mr. Matthews, of course, was always thinking ahead. Instead of the gargoyles, he wanted his face here. So this is Mr. Matthews there. And the eyes are shifted one way and the other, depending which way you're walking in. This is his wife, Marcia, there. And then her daughter, side profile there. Very interesting.
So what like is this room right here?
So we're going to get to that.
Okay.
So we have stained glass windows around as well. So it's pointing out, the curtains are all drawn right now. But this room here would have been the grand living room, the formal living room, where y'all are sitting, would be the dining room, and the back area was the study. This door would lead into the kitchen at one time, and then of course we have our cedar hall here. Our master bedroom, the bathroom that you all were in, that's originally one bedroom, and then the other one, which is our art room, used to be the bathroom when the Matthews were here. When the Schultz moved in, we'll get into that, but they converted into 2 bedrooms and added more footage for restrooms as well. The flooring that you're going to see on the floor is all Saltillo tile from Saltillo, Mexico. And we have cedar hall here with cedar beams that Mr. Matthews says the king of Lebanon gifted to him for fighting, help fight the crown. And at the front gate, we have this big sign, beware of agapanthus. Anybody know what agapanthus is? It's the lily of the Nile, it's a plant. So but basically, once again, trying to ward people to not come to this property. They're there socializing. They were socialites. They would invite people over, fly in. Of course, you're close to the airport and such. And they traveled the world, and everywhere they went, they brought back something or other. You know, we bring back a coffee cup, a keychain. They would bring back vases and rugs and silverware and massive furniture and such. He dabbled in hydroponics, which at the time was new, and we had a greenhouse back there. And the story was that the U.S. Army used this formula to grow plants out in the Philippines when we were still stationed out there, because the soil was so hard. So the U.S. Army could grow the fruits needed for the soldiers. So Ms. Matthews passed away in 1963, and Mr. Matthews the following year in 64. So the house sat vacant for several years. So the daughter came down trying to liquidate and found out that they were very, very much in debt. So they had to have this big estate sale. So these are some clippings from the time, decades-old home used, eccentric owner, and it goes on talking about swords. And everything had a story behind it. I think that kind of jacked up the price too. You know, the sword was given by Rafael Pancho Villa, and over here, olive jars from Morocco, and the designated years. So the sale took a couple of weeks to get rid of everything. So while it sat vacant, a local Christian group wanted to make a little coffee house, you know, kind of like the first Starbucks type thing. So it became a retreat house. So where y'all are sitting more or less in this area would have been where they would read poetry. They had a piano, a little stage. You can see kind of people gathered around here. Flyers would go up advertising. It was only on the weekends. And people would come and just kind of hang out. It was the 70s, that type of thing. The Vietnam War was kind of boiling through there. So as it sat through, we had Hurricane Beulah blow through here in 1967. The mansion was damaged. The city, of course, closed it, condemned it, and it went up for auction. So when it went up for auction, this couple here were a young couple at the time. So Mrs. Schultz ended up buying the house and the 5 acres for $24,000. So you might say, well, they lived in Alamo. They were fruit farmers. They had 2 kids, Karen and Stephen Schultz, and they were very well established in the community as socialites. Mr. Schultz, basically he owned what was called back then Crest Fruit Company, and basically it was like a mail order. You would sign up and you would get fruit sent to you, with fruit juice, with onions, melons, cucumbers, that type of thing. This is Quinta Mazatlan right there, and he purchased the property all around, and it was all citrus orchards at one time. Mrs. Schultz, being a pioneer herself, she had a degree in music, but she dabbled in mail order. So she would make custom plates downtown McAllen. She had a shop. She would make custom plates, and she had a book. It's called Mail Order on the Kitchen Table, teaching women how they could establish a business from home and still be able to, you know, work from home. So basically what they added to Quinta Mazatlan is all the canteras stone you'll see around the mansion. The hoops, they kind of modernized it there. They added this fireplace here in the hallway. But they were very instrumental in being involved in the community. They were pioneers establishing the museum, the IMAS Museum. There's a plaque there with their names on it. It was the first musician. They were with the Valley Symphony Orchestra, the ballet, and all that. And the host parties were all held here after the events. So the mansion was always decked out and ready for a gathering. So as you can see, when they had it in the 1980s, this is what the mansion looked like. They had the pool. They still kept the greenhouse. They had the roof. The rope ladder was changed to a staircase, and they had a sun deck on top. And you know, they had a jacuzzi there, which we don't have anymore. But you know, it's a pretty cool mansion here. And like I said, they always had it decked out with the heavy furniture and such, ready for entertainment. Never know who's going to drop in, that type of thing. So this is a formal living room, which is over here. And where y'all are sitting right here is the dining room, and of course the foreman's study in the back area over there. The master bedroom, you know, kind of elevated in the 70s, 80s. You had a gold carpet and gold everything. And then Mrs. Schultz passed away in 1991. Mr. Schultz remarried in 1998. The new wife didn't want to live here, the kids didn't want the mansion, so the mansion went up for auction. Again, an estate sale. So they sold the mansion for $1.4 million to the city of McAllen. The city of McAllen purchased the mansion because there was an idea behind it, and it was scandalous. Those of you that probably remember, it was called the Mud Hut on the Hill. Why invest so much money? But at the time, Mayor Montalvo had a vision as to what Quinta Mazatlan wanted. He wanted it to be, which is what we are today. We're an environmental area, an urban sanctuary that works to enrich people's lives by sharing knowledge about birds, plants, and environmental stewardship in South Texas. We've grown steadily and continue to grow. Presently, you probably saw some kids here. We have a contract with McAllen ISD. All the third graders, fourth graders, third graders, fifth graders, seventh graders, and high school aquatics classes. About 4,000 students rotate through here Tuesday through Friday from 9 to 12 for environmental lessons. On the off season, I like to call it, we have scout groups that come in, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. We have organizations that rent the facility. We have weddings, quinceañeras, photo shoots. It's like non-stop going. But also we always keep the integrity of what Quinta Mazatlan is and the families that kind of started this journey. Moving forward in the parking lot area where y'all kind of gathered or parked, eventually by 2024 we should have the Center for Urban Ecology there. There'll be a building center for urban ecology. The 5 acres as you drove up on the right-hand side will become this Children's Adventure Garden where children will learn about the Rio Grande River starting in Colorado, New Mexico, going down to Boca Chica Beach. As it meanders through the forest, there'll be lessons for the kids to learn about basically the Rio Grande River and all the cities north on either side basically of the river and what it entails. There'll be sensory gardens, there'll be cooking areas, and a lot of native plants, and encouraging people to, plant native and keep native plants going. So, does anybody have any questions offhand? And I know it's kind of quick and short, compressed, but this is an hour-long presentation, and we would have walked around and yada yada yada. But for now, this is what we do with our group. Yes, sir.
Just as an aside, my parents were friends of the Matthews.
The Matthews family.
And when I was a teenager, probably 44 or somewhere in there, they took me, I visited 2 or 3 times with my parents and the Matthews. And I recall that they were still making their adobe blocks back then. And they took us on a tour of the house, and I don't remember enough, but it seems like it was one big room at that time, mostly.
Okay.
And then the ante rooms were under those overhangs like that. And very interesting couple. He wrote a lot of the small pamphlets and books. He was very conservative then.
Right.
And he was kind of off the wall, eccentric. But my parents had some of those books, and if I could locate them, I know that I have pictures. So would you be interested in some of that if I find it?
Yes, sir. We have people that always come and donate things, or the children come and like, I don't know what to do with it. My parents have these pictures, and we have files that we keep everything. We use them for presentations because a lot of these pictures were donated or brought in. Also, it's just reaching out to different. As a museum, you all know, it's like, where do you start? I started off at Ancestry.com and just kind of started digging, and then, branching out. And once people heard, people start donating, giving us things, just to keep, it's kind of challenging, as the era, people get older and older. Some people just don't know what to do. One lady that works at my eye doctor, she said, "Oh yeah, I remember. We went out there and helped them clean the house, and they just told us to sweep everything out, and they burned." But a lot of what she was telling me basically were little notes and like stories, magazines. They hired us to clean and we burned. Of course, we didn't know anything back then. Yes, ma'am.
What about the furniture?
The furniture is all purchased or donated as well. There's nothing really original. No. There's like a couple of pieces from the Schultz era, but other than that, Yes, ma'am.
Do they allow, small private weddings? This is a venue of any type?
Right, it's a venue. We have anywhere from 150 to 350 guests. And when it's an estate package, you rent the front lawn in here and the courtyard as well. We do have some small weddings. We had one 2 Saturdays ago. There was a couple and their parents, like 12. And they rented this little area here. We got married here and it's just 12. We're now with the pandemic, but then we do have the big blowout, 350 guests, and they do accommodations. Yeah. But yeah, I'm surprised we have a photo shoot going on right now. We can see at our wedding or bride, but it's always go, move. We can't stop because history keeps moving. We're learning as we go as well, but just reinventing ourselves on how to get our message. And one of the things is basically, I attribute is like we do a throwback Thursday, a picture, something about this, to entice people to just come out and do a self-guided tour. Usually they come in at the front desk. We do have a condensed history version, which they get on a map of the property. We are 26 acres. Right now you'll probably see a lot of birders walking around. We have this crimson-colored grosbeak. It's a bird, kind of like an olive color, that we have people from all over the U.S. coming down. This is as far as the north the bird comes, so if people don't want to go to Mexico, so they'll come here. And, as long as we feed the bird, people come down. And it becomes a big economic impact for the city because people come in, they fly in, they drive in, they have to buy gas, get a hotel room, they have to eat, buy something or other, so it's kind of builds on your economy for those of you that, kind of push that economy thing too. All right?
Well, we've been doing these programs since 2005, and we actually came here in 2013. And I believe it was in September of 2013, and we got to take a tour of the whole mansion.
Right.
And we got to see what I remember the most was the sunken Roman bath.
Yeah.
Remember that? And we had dinner here in this room, and the caterer served us out in this hallway there. And then we took some paths, tours. World Province of Path.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit, please, about if a birder were wanting to come, where do they go? What do they see?
So as like I said, usually on Tuesdays our ornithologists or Center for Ecology, whatever's hot going on, either with plants, what's flowering, or birds, or something rare to see, it gets posted on our social media page. If it's something hotter, it kind of goes out to the press, the newspaper, that type of thing. But usually we're checking in at the front desk. We have a whole chalkboard, for lack of a better word, that gets updated daily as it goes. And that's how the kind of information goes out. We do have also, if you want to book a gathering, we have a person that does that as well. We have several other areas that to walk the grounds. As you walk the grounds, there's 35 sculptures of native animals. And there's a stone, and whoever donated it gets on there. But it's a little fun facts, trivia on the animal species that it is. And we also have storyboards. It's what you see, what you don't see. Throughout the forest, there's 35 of them as well. Strategically placed, so as you're walking, you can kind of like enjoy the view and read and learn as you go on the trails. There's benches also, so if you get tired, you can sit down and rest at ideal places. We kind of changed things up once the pandemic hit because the school district said they weren't coming. So we reinvented and we started doing trail themes. We did the Kindness Rocks. Right now we're kind of setting up All You Need Is Love trail, and then we did some kind of got out of hand. We did the low racks, and that was kind of like people wanted to come out. We did a Sticks and Bones for Halloween, but each one is educational. The Sticks and Bones, what's that? So we talk about the bones of animals and things like that and compare them, but it's always a lesson in there to kind of get the people out here to bring their kids or just learn about nature in general. And we had Illumina Fest, which is Show Your Light, and that one, the first year, we kind of learned from that one. So this year, it was all timed entry. We had over 5,000 people enter within a 5-day period, and it was like from 6:15 to 9:15, and we kind of got the people in, but it was like people wanted to get out, people wanted to learn, but still be social, distancing themselves, and it was kind of timed entry, so people really enjoyed it, that we were able still to keep everybody safe. If you want to come out. If you want to stay home, but the thing is, like, it's, I'm sure you experience it in your own business, how do you keep people still coming in but being safe as well? And that's what, we kind of try to balance both.
But if they wanted to come and take the paths and see the birds and the statues and what have you, is there a charge for that?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, of course, there's not any charge. We are a nonprofit, but you don't have to pay me. So yeah, so at the front desk is $3 adults, $2 seniors, and $2 for children between 2 and 12, 2 and under. So it's a very nominal fee. I mean, they have told us like, you know, raise it, but it's like you raise it, people won't come. So we kind of thrive on donations, and like Illumina Fest, you know, bringing 5,000 people in at $5 a head, you know, that was a little bit different. But we're able to, you know, recoup some of that money, but still keep it easy and friendly for people that just want to come out and spend the day, have a picnic here, that type of thing. And they check in at the front desk, they'll get your little history, and there'll be a map, and the young lady or the gentleman at the front desk is versed as to what's hot, what's going on. You know, why are you here? You're
Like
here to
what
see the
birds have
bird.
been sighted lately and things like that.
Right, so you're here as a birder that's been seen at the amphitheater and the Ruby Pond, and here's where it's at. You know, that's where the birders are gonna go. They're not gonna go traverse, you know, 20 acres. You know,
Right.
where is it? Because I need to get my picture. And other people just, I wanna walk around, and so you just follow the path. I tell them, don't climb over the fence and don't jump the canal, and you'll stay on the property. All the trails are granite gravel. They're all ADA accessible. And a wheelchair can easily go through there. Of course, there's some ruts every now and then if it's raining. But other than that, you know, you can just traverse, take a casual walk through here. It's a pretty friendly place. I'm a retired teacher. I taught for 28 years at La Jolla School District, and I retired in 2016 in January, and I started working here part-time in February. La Jolla. And I, you know, started part-time, and then slowly, oh, well, you're pretty good. Why don't you do this? And here I am now full-time. I was like, okay, I'll do it because my kids are in college, but now they're already finishing up, and I really don't need it, but I love this job, and you know, I think taking a backseat now to the historical part of it and showing people all the science teachers, like kind of helps me with the education part, but aside from that, the historical part behind it, and just kind of meeting new people and unique people and people that bring stories back to Quinta Mazatlan that, you know, I have this item, and there's a gentleman that brought over some records that that Mr. Matthews had recorded on, and the sheet music. He goes, do you have these? And I was like, no. He goes, well, I want to give it to you. Because, you know, I'm cleaning house, I'm already old, and I need to get rid of this. Because I know my kids are just going to end up throwing it away, but because I know, you know, he made the connection with us here, and I was able to donate that as well. So, thank you for that. Any other questions?
And currently, I am the Historic Preservation Officer. We do have a Historic Preservation Council that meets every third, fourth Wednesday of the month. So we can start with Las Palmas Historic District, which is the little tour that we took. As I mentioned, it is a small little district. So the area in blue, I don't know if this is. So this is where the development center is at. This is where I work. So right across this section right here, this is Cedar Avenue. From here all the way to Hackberry, this street is the Las Palmas Historic District. This area, it's pink because it is commercial. These are commercial buildings. Currently, I believe this corner one is vacant. So any property that is vacant that they want to build in this district, they will have to go through the Historic Preservation Council before they are even able to build. So, and then from here, all the way to Hackberry, these are residential homes. There are some new ones that recently got built back probably like in 2015. So those, they did, as I mentioned, have to go through the council. And then some of the houses within this district are city landmarks, and which is McAllen city landmarks, and then some actually became state and national landmarks as well. So like the Percy Herman House, it's a city and a state. The Griffin House is a city and a national. And then the Miller House, it's all three, city, state, and national. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, baby.
Okay. And then, so how the Palmas Historic District became, so the neighborhood was more modern and distinguished as compared to neighborhoods south of Business 83. Architectural style is from the early 20th century, building methods 1920s to 1930s, namely craftsman and eclectic revival styles, the Mission Revival, the Spanish Eclectic, and then Tudor Revival are examples of the houses that are within that district, and as well as early ranch style. House forms and materials typically various styles include wood, brick, and stucco. The streetscapes are unified by landscaping, so as we were going through, you were able to see a lot of landscaping in that area. That also is when a new house is wanting to be built there, that is one thing that we do ask for them to follow the other houses with the landscaping. As houses developed during the Great Depression and the war years, neighborhoods earned the name of Stocky Row, referring to the high number of wealthy families who lived along that street. And one of the houses that we pass by is in 505 North Distant Street, which is the Percy Herman House. So the Percy Herman House was built in 1933 for Percy Herman, a major influence in the development of McAllen. Mr. Herman was born in Iowa in 1910. He married Ms. Stella Lazarus, and then soon they moved to Texas, where he opened stores across the South Texas towns. He and his family settled in McAllen, opening the Valley Mercantile stores in 1916. The Hermans became widely successful and were considered one of the first Jewish families in McAllen. Mr. Herman hired Edwin W. Byers, who had designed buildings across the country, to design this home in Spanish eclectic style with a symmetrical floor plan featuring two facades on a corner lot, a stucco exterior, and clay roof tiles. So I believe this one actually did get restored a couple of years ago. And then the next house, I was not able to find a photo for how the Percy home used to look, but I did find her the Griffin House. This one, it currently became a city landmark. I believe it was in 2019. So for this one, I do have a little bit more history on this. So we can start with Mr. Gordon Griffin, the history of him. He was born in 1888 in Tennessee. After graduating with a bachelor's degree in law in 1915, he started the law practice there in Tennessee, and he was actually elected mayor of the town at the young age of 22. On July 17, he married Mary Brochure, and in 1920 they moved to Texas, where the Benson brothers convinced them to seek their fortune in the thriving little city of McAllen, with a population at the time of 5,000. That same year, Mr. Griffin passed the state bar in Texas and started a 22-year law career in McAllen. He and another attorney plotted the Griffin and Leslie subdivision, a Guadalupe irrigation construction company of Hidalgo County. And in 1926, Mr. Griffin bought a large portion of the Hidalgo County Canal Company, which was one of the first large subdivisions in McAllen and held most of the surrounding undeveloped land. And in March of 1926, the McAllen Monitor made a front page announcement, which is that photo right here, which stated Griffin will build a home on 15th Street. The article described the Griffin new house as a modern 7-room dwelling on Spanish architectural lines and further announced it could be a Class C home. The house was built by M.R. Nelson, a prominent builder in the region. Over his ventures in McAllen, Griffin held more than 400 deeds for property throughout the town, ranging from individual houses to irrigation companies. Even while the Griffin were completing their own house, they embarked on a large commercial enterprise, building the first tourist camp in McAllen to attract future home buyers. Mr. Griffin became a leading political activist as well after thousands of home seekers poured into the valley in the 1910s and 1920s. After realizing they had the numbers to stand up and challenge the old order, he led the revolt against the boss rule in Hidalgo County politics through a movement known as the Hidalgo Country Rebellion to rid the county of apparent corruption. So the house was built of yellow buff brick. The house features hallmarks of the Spanish colonial revival style, such as the red half barrel clay, tile roof, and arch entry bell tower, but iron hardware and a solid wood door. Its long linear placements across 3 lots on North 15th Street is relied by its projecting entrance and extent front chimney. The Griffin House is an outstanding example of a custom-designed Spanish colonial revival house built during a period of phenomenal growth in South Texas in the mid-1920s. One of the other houses is the Miller House. The Miller House was owned by Sam and Marjorie Miller. They're the original inhabitants of the house. Mr. Miller was a local citrus farmer, businessman, and banker, built a house in 1973. As a reflection of their admiration for English Tudor architecture, one of the town's most prominent businessmen, Miller played influential roles in several businesses and civic organizations in McAllen, and his Tudor Revival House reflects his success in the community. During their 1927 trip to England, the Millers fell in love with English Tudor architecture. They collected several exterior and interior examples of the local buildings. Upon their return from England, Ms. Miller drew out the basic floor plan and then commissioned locally prominent architecture, Harry Biggers and Jack Bentley of San Juan, Texas, to make the formal plans for building the house. Mr. Miller's civic generosity was exemplified in 1930 by his donation of 190 acres of land to the city of McAllen for the construction of an airport named at the time Miller Municipal Airport. On July 17, 1956, the airport was designated an international airport, so that planes arriving from outside of the United States, mainly from Mexico, could clear customs at the McAllen facility. Miller International Airport Terminal was rebuilt in a state-of-the-art facility in 1993. The 90-year-old Mrs. Miller and her daughter Barbara were on hand for the renaming and rededication of ceremonies. Still bearing the Miller name, the new McAllen Miller International Airport today offers 4 airlines, which are American Airlines, United, Allegiant, and Automad, which Automad does go to Mexico. And then, so from there, we can start going to other, these are other city landmarks. These are not in the district, but there are city landmarks, city of McAllen landmarks. So the Masonic Temple, it was built, so on December 8, 1915, Dan is Midland Grand Master of the M.W. Grand Lodge of Texas, dedicated the new McAllen Lodge, number 1110. The lodge held the first meeting on Tuesday, January 21, 1916. It was held in the 2nd story of the Joseph Building on South Main Street that was then occupied by Kent's Shop for Men. The lodge was later moved to the Obstern Building at South Main Street. As it grew, the lodge expanded, and it relocated back into the Joseph Building until its new building, which is this one, on 11th and Beach, was completed in 1927. The McAllen Lodge hired Hiram A. Salisbury of Houston as the architect for the new temple and awarded the construction contract to M.R. Nelson Construction Company for $31,000. The McAllen Lodge always was a busy lodge. It was involved with the laying of cornerstones at many public schools, churches, and public buildings in and around this area. Many members of the lodge were and are prominent and active citizens of trade and professions. the Bethel Baptist Historic side. So this side, the church is not there anymore, but they did dedicate a garden in that site. So some history about it. So Mr. Hubbard, a black employee of Pacific Railroad, was transferred to McAllen, Texas. He was discouraged when he found no place to worship. So then as the group of worshipers grew, they inquired at McAllen City Hall about establishing an official place of worship. Their request was granted in 1936 and began church services without electricity or plumbing in a small building on Fresno and 18th Street. The members named their church the Bethel Baptist Church, as Bethel is Hebrew for house of God. The first pastor was Reverend R.P. Allen, and the first deacons were Eugene, Andy, and Will. As the congregation grew, the church was found land to build a permanent home at the corner of South 60th Street and Booker T Avenue, which is this one right here. And it was completed in September of 1941. Today, the legacy of the church continues as Bethel Church Gardens. The property now contains a community garden to celebrate the history of African Americans in McAllen. The mural at the side depicts the history of Bethel Baptist Church. There is landscaping and a bike street can still be observed on the property. Then there's the M&J Nelson building. This one is in downtown. This Norworthy modern style commercial building in downtown remains a distinguished attraction. Morris Randall Nelson built and owned the building, which was designed and constructed in 1949. And the use of the JCPenney company that moved to the building in January 1950 from the location on Broadway Avenue. So the progressive building was an architecture and commercial anchor in McAllen's post-war business district and continued to serve as a downtown landmark as the city experienced dynamic growth. The building, as I mentioned, housed the JCPenney, and it is now currently housing a furniture store at the moment. Then there's the McAllen Post Office. The McAllen Post Office was designed by architect William D. Van Seaton and was built in 1935 to 1936. The U.S. Post Office owned the building and was in operation from 1936 until 1957. The original contractor was March Brothers Construction of St. Louis, Missouri, but because of financial problems, wasn't able to complete the project. Therefore, M.R. Nelson, a local contractor, completed the construction in 1936. The post office then moved in 1958 to a large facility along South 12th Street in the downtown. The old post office building then served as a federal building from 1958 until 1977. When a larger federal building was opened, the building was declared surplus by the federal government and was donated to the city of McAllen in 1979 with the condition that it would be used as a downtown leisure center for the downtown shoppers. Although the exterior remains the same, the interior was remodeled in 1981 for its new use. Many people know the building as La Placita, but it now houses the McAllen Heritage Center. There is the Roosevelt School. This one is this is well in downtown. It's on the west side of City Hall. It is again a block. In this one, in 1919, the McAllen School Board met for the purpose of discussing the building of a new school for the McAllen Mexican War. In June of that same year, the school board formed a committee to select a site for the school. The site selected was the block between Houston and Galveston, between 16th and 17th Street. The architect chosen for the project is unknown, as the board minutes do not state. The building's construction was completed on January 29, 1921, and then an addition, which is this addition, this is the annex, was completed in 1927. The building, so the only known principal for the school was Ms. Sarah Thigpen from 1921 until the school closed in the 1960s. Named after her in the 1950s, the Thigpen Elementary School opened along South 23rd Street. Many of the students who attended Roosevelt went to Thigpen because of the new boundary lines. After the old Sam Houston Elementary School at South 16th Street and Jackson Avenue went through the expansion, the school board decided to close Roosevelt Elementary School for good in the 1960s. The building remained vacant until the 1970s, when the structures were restored and reopened as a language arts center for newly enrolled students who were not English speaking. And then the use of the school was changed again in 1992, and as of currently, I believe it's vacant at the moment. And then for this one, there have been potential buyers, but they have been wanting to demolish the building, but they have gone through the Historic Preservation Council and it has been denied. And then there's a Get Out and Son store on South 17th Street. So this one, two brothers, Enrique and Modesto Guerra, started a grocery business in 1908. Unfortunately, the business failed until their father took over, and the store was known as the Guerra and Son store. In 1912, the grocery business flourished, and the family moved their store from a frame building to a brick building at the corner of 17th Street and Austin Avenue. At this location, businesses increased and continued to be very stable establishment. As the business prospered, the horse-drawn wagon used for deliveries was finally replaced by a truck. It was believed to be one of the first delivery trucks in the city and was nicknamed La Troquita. However, the scene seemed to change in 1932 when Villalobos died and the Great Depression hit McAllen. Store merchandise had to be rationed to customers, especially sugar, since it was so scarce. Meat at the time was sold at the price of 10 cents a pound. In 1935, 17th Street downtown was renamed by the city as Guerra Street in honor of the family. The store remained open until 1964, and it is one of the oldest buildings in McAllen that has been preserved along the front facade since its construction in 1912. Then we have the Strohmeyer House. This one is a bit north on Ware Road. So the Strohmeyer House and Farm was established in 1933 at 5 1/4 mile north Ware Road. It was the first home and is the last of the wood frame homes built north of the 5 mile line on Ware Road. It has been occupied by the Strohmeyers from that day to the present. The history of the house and the Strohmeyer family go hand in hand. This history gives a unique look into the work and life of a pioneering family starting to build a house and farm in South Texas. The obstacles overcame in those early years in response to the weather related to Mother Nature's fury is a part of the house history. The area of the social work and the area of sports are also a part of the house history, as those interests have impacted the inhabitants of the Rio Grande Valley of Texas. The unique value is that this house is the last early 1930s house on North Ware Road. Before 1971, houses were built at crossroads and canal crossings. Those wood frame homes are gone. Each house had a unique design, and when given directions to the house, a description of the house was also included as part of the information. In the early days, visitors included the Bensons, the Sherrys, the Wash, the Woods, the bishops of Corpus Christi, Bishop Gurria and Marks, the sheriffs of Laverne County, Lanning and Ralph. In the late years, Bishop John Fitzpatrick, Congressman Quique de la Garza, and Cesar Chavez were known to visit the house. Then we have the Lamar Junior High School. It was completed, the project was completed in the summer of 1993. The school was designed by Mr. Waller, both Mr. Waller's architects from Fort Worth. The contractor was Mr. H.H. Muller, and the cost at the time was approximately $100,000. The first classes were held in the new building in September of 1939. The school was used as the Lamar Junior High School for over 50 years, from 1944 until the year 2000. Many generations of the McAllen students attended school there, and the school was the only junior high school in the city until 1957. Many of the students that attended school there became doctors, businesses, and civic leaders. The building was renovated in 1984, but the facade received only minor changes to the windows. The building is an example of the Spanish Revival style of architecture. heavily used at the time, and currently it is still a school. Then we have Cine Rey. This one is in South 7th Street in downtown. So Cine Rey symbolizes the significance of the Spanish language film theater in the Hispanic American culture. Opened as a theater in downtown McAllen in 1947, El Rey served the city's Hispanic community for 40 years. The arrival of the braceros had a tremendous impact on the growth of the Mexican population in the United States. In the 1940s and 1950s, Spanish language film distributor Plaza Moen's field salesmen were continuously analyzing census data to estimate the Mexican population in Texas cities. The Plaza Moen archives are full of reports on the arrival of foreign workers into potential markets. This new audience was looking for entertainment. The Mexicans got this in the motion pictures that Mexico started producing in the late 1930s and whose rate of production grew dramatically during the 1940s. These films make up El Siglo de Oro del Cine Mexicano, which is Mexico's golden age of cinemas. Then we have the Paris Gum Factory. This one is in business 83. Currently, I believe it's being used as an entertainment business. So Mr. Perez, the son of a successful Greek immigrant family, tried from Detroit, Michigan to McAllen, Texas in the early 1940s, where he set up a confection import business. He was inspired when he saw some McAllen kids handling a few pieces of bubble gum one day back in 1946. He saw that a new building at this location for a major automotive company was being, the slab for the concrete was being poured. So when he saw, he knew it was the perfect site for his bubblegum factory, as it was located right across the railroad tracks. So he bought that land on the spot. Opening in 1947, the factory operated for 24 hours a day. It ran for 9 years and closed in 1955. There were Latina women working in an air-conditioned building in a very clean environment, a job highly regarded back then. 5,000 tons of bubble-blowing gum produced in McAllen hit the market. Paris became an overnight success. Andy's, Mr. Paris' good looks and charismatic personality helped him become one of the most interviewed and photographed men of the late 1940s and a hero to children around the world. Life magazine descended down on his McAllen office and crowned him the Bubblegum King on February 3, 1947. He was featured in numerous national magazines in the late 1940s and appeared on national radio shows with such celebrities as Art Linkletter and Cooney Perry Como. Paris dated Marilyn Monroe and taught a young Natalie Wood how to blow bubbles for her role in the movie A Miracle on 34th Street. Making various appearances in 1948, he traveled worldwide more than 1 million miles by air as a guest artist blowing his bubbles. By 1955, the cost of shipping became prohibitive and a big part of his bubble business burst. In July 1955, Paris liquidated the plant and sent a lot of the equipment to the Wrigley Gum Empire. The building then became a seed factory for various companies like Glen Reed Seed Company and Eastern Seed Company. It once served as an out-of-shape store, but was mostly used for home furniture companies. And currently it's I believe it's like a trapped puzzle escape room. And then the last one, this is the last of like actual city of McAllen landmarks, but there are other landmarks in the city that are national and state landmarks, but they never gone through the process to become a city landmark. But this one is the Southern Pacific Depot. So the San Antonio and Aransas Pass Railroad laid tracks out to the Rio Grande Valley. and in McAllen in 1927. The beautiful Spanish colonial Renaissance architecture and its red tile roofs of the early 20th century stands out in this very special building and encourages its retention as a last mark of the railroad passenger service, which has faded away in McAllen in the Rio Grande Valley. Mr. McCoy, Southern Pacific architect, designed the Ford Valley passenger depots, namely McAllen, Atterbury, Harlingen, and Bronxville. The passenger depot construction did not commence until the months after the first train arrived in the morning of February 6, 1927. Temporarily, railway passenger coaches were placed on a sliding for using ticketing, passenger waiting, and baggage storage. The McAllen passenger depot was erected by the Ware Construction Company of El Paso, Texas. Work began on March 1927 and was officially opened the night of August 1927. The first passenger train in McAllen to McAllen arrived proudly at 9:55 on Sunday morning of February 6 of 1927. A sister of Miss Hyde May was the first long-distance passenger to arrive to McAllen over the new route. She came from California. That evening, a large crowd was on hand as the train departed for San Antonio and Houston, many of whom rode to Atterbury just to say they were on their first passenger train out of McAllen. McAllen residents were thrilled they now had a direct outlet to anywhere in the USA.
Is that the hotel that was right near the hotel, that depot?
There is a hotel east of it, which is Las Palmas. Because Las Palmas hotel, that is, it's not a city landmark, but it is a state and national, I believe. But this one is on Bicentennial. Currently, right now, a law firm owns it.
But that's not the one that was by the hotel, downtown hotel.
No, I don't think so. But yes, this is the city landmark. Yes. Do you guys have any questions?
So those first houses that you showed, are they currently have people living in them?
Yes.
So people live on that street when road up?
Yes. People
Okay.
do live on the street. I don't know, when we stopped at Harvey Drive on the west side, that house is actually on sale. Some of the houses were on sale, and they do call the planning department just to make sure what they can do and what they cannot do. Because if it's anything of exterior that they're wanting to renovate, then they will have to go to the Historic Preservation Council for approval.
Well, we thank you for your presentation, and we enjoyed the little tour. One last thing, I cannot express how much I appreciate Nancy helping get this all together.